The L322 Range Rover was produced between 2001 and 2012 and was the first and only Range Rover designed by BMW. The German manufacturer had bought the Land Rover brand in the mid-90s, and so some evidence of BMW can be found in the prior model, the P38, namely the 2.5 litre diesel engine. However, the L322 was created from concept in the BMW era of ownership, but would not be released in time for them to celebrate the car, as they had sold the Land Rover brand to Ford in the year 2000, shortly before the car was released in 2001. Evidence of BMW ownership is clear in the early L322 era, although some of Ford's input can be seen in the addition of a heated windscreen. This is why some believe the car was the best Range Rover ever made, as two giants of the automotive world had a hand in its creation, although one much less than the other. We'll get into the details shortly, but first here is a breakdown of the L322 Range Rover's lifespan. First there was the early L322. This was produced between 2001 and 2004. From there is a facelift model, running from 2005 to 2009, and finally the late generation from 2009 to 2012. These are the most notable by the addition of daytime running lights in the shape of round LEDs around the headlights. In this time, a lot changed on the L322 chassis, and understanding the differences is crucial to buying the one that is right for you. First in our buyer's guide are the parts you should look out for no matter what age, specification or engine you buy for your Range Rover. The rear wheel arches rust on all models. This is due to the poorly weather sealed area on the forwardmost half of the rear wheel arches. This problem is so common that pattern part repair panels for the area are easy to find and relatively inexpensive, although the repair itself will require welding if going down this route. Dirt, mud, salt and general grime accumulate over time and will cause rust. The vehicle is at most risk if it was fitted with a side step, as this can allow snow and dirt to remain trapped for longer, and so a top tip for the L322 would be to remove any side step if one is fitted. A resolution to the issue has been discovered though, whether sealing the inner arch area after it has been repaired, or if it is not yet suffering from rust, and then using the wheel arch strip from the Discovery Sport model cut to size will avoid accumulation. Remembering to give the area a clean with a jet wash also helps. A full guide to this can be found on the YouTube channel Range Rover Owner, titled How to Protect the Rear Wheel Arches on a £125,000 Range Rover L322 with a simple modification. Second, the air suspension can suffer several faults. The control unit, air pump and air lines can all suffer problems. However, the most common issue reported is airbag failure, which should come as no surprise since the vehicle is heavy and almost all cars with an airbag suspension will need them replaced at some point. A note for a potential owner of the late L322 Range Rover is that the system is different to the earlier facelift and original model. Owners have reported the newer system doesn't ride quite as well, and so if you feel the suspension is stiffer than you would like, don't immediately assume that there's a problem. Upgrades and replacements come from an array of companies, however Arnott's carry a strong reputation, and although they may be more expensive than others, you certainly get what you pay for. Tailgate rust is a common issue that can't be avoided. Repairs can be simple and inexpensive if found early, or a new tailgate can be sourced. Electrical gremlins exist in some but not all, and in rare cases can leave you stranded. However, this is not a widely reported issue. Instead, minor electrical faults are more common, and will almost certainly have a repair catalogued on one of the Range Rover owners' forums. Note that tracing an issue can easily become an expensive process. Driver's seat lower bolster wear is common, and the leather along the cushioning can become split. Finally, these cars are heavy, and so ball joints and bushings do suffer advanced wear compared to a smaller car. Budget for a replacement if the car doesn't have a history of them changed in the last few years. If you know any other common faults with the L322 affecting all of the range, please put them in the comments below to help your fellow Range Rover enthusiasts. As a side note, Range Rovers fitted with the 20-inch factory wheels can have a tyre named the Pirelli Scorpion Verde as an all-season tyre. These are fitted to the newer L405 generation Range Rover and can be used in countries that require winter tyres to be fitted in the cold months. Early L322 Range Rovers were offered with two engines, although some markets were only offered one. This is where the BMW inspiration is clearest. A 4.4 litre V8 engine producing 282 brake horsepower with an average of 17 miles per gallon was the most powerful option in the early L322 Range Rovers. These engines are fairly reliable, although two common issues are cylinder scoring due to the aluminium construction of the engine and Alusil and Nicosil cylinder liners. Poor engine timing due to faulty guides is a less common issue, but worth listening for any rattle of the timing change and guides before purchase to be sure. The other engine option was a 2.9 litre diesel 6-cylinder. The engine produces 174 brake horsepower and averaged 25 miles per gallon. It is a common unit to many BMWs and is considered very reliable, with some owners taking well-maintained BMWs with this engine to 200,000 miles. Unfortunately, two problems arise in the Range Rover with the TD6. Firstly, it is stressed, pulling such a heavy vehicle, and so more maintenance is needed and failures of turbos are more common. The main problem though isn't the engine, it's the 5-speed gearbox these are paired with. BMW X5s fitted with the 3-litre diesel receive a different gearbox and are much more dependable. Sadly, the gearbox in the Range Rover is at its limits from the factory, and a rebuild is almost a certainty at some point, although changing the gearbox oil at regular intervals can avert disaster. Although this is the more efficient engine of the two for the 2001 to 2004 produced vehicles, any saving could easily be wiped out by gearbox failure, and so the V8 is likely a better choice unless you find one that has already had a gearbox repair and don't mind the lower power output. In 2005, three engine options became available. The 4.4 BMW engine is replaced with a 295 brake horsepower 4.4 litre Jaguar V8 that will average 19 miles to the gallon. Of all Range Rover engines, this is the one that is most cost effective, not because of its efficiency, but because it's a strong unit that is powerful enough for the car and well built. Although no engine can be perfect, the 4.4 is one of the better options for owners that don't mind paying a little bit more in fuel to have a more reliable motor. These engines do not take kindly to LPG conversions, and so these should be avoided or removed. The 4.2 litre supercharged engine, making 395 brake horsepower and averaging 18 miles per gallon, is a reliable unit when well cared for. However, high running costs and heavy depreciation mean that many have been poorly maintained and driven hard without necessary servicing required. A complete service history or a recent owner that has given the car the no expense spared approach to Range Rover ownership should result in a good, robust vehicle. The 2.9 TD6 continued to be offered in 2005 as the diesel option for the Range Rover L322. However, these were phased out in 2006. The newer 3.6 TDV8 introduced in 2006 is a better fit for a Range Rover. These produce 272 brake horsepower and average 25 miles to the gallon. Many consider this engine to be the best mix of affordability, reliability and power for the L322 Range Rover. Known issues are limited to the turbos, which can fail and make the engine refuse to start. A failing turbo can lead to further damage of the engine if it is not rectified properly. Be aware that if shopping for a diesel, the 3.6 TDV8 engine was not always fitted to facelift diesel vehicles, and so check to make sure that it isn't the 3 litre if searching early facelift models. The engine was also offered for 1 year of the final facelift in 2009, prior to being replaced by the 4.4 TDV8 motor. The easy way to spot this is that the 3.6 TDV8 engines are not fitted with Brembo brake calipers and have a regular gear lever for the automatic transmission instead of a circular rising gear selector fitted to models with the 4.4 TDV8. For the final facelift in 2009, the 4.2 supercharged engine was replaced by a 5 litre supercharged engine creating 501 brake horsepower and averaging 19 miles to the gallon. These models are the fastest L322 Range Rovers made and can dash from 0 to 60 miles an hour in 6 seconds. Some markets also have the option of the same 5 litre V8 without the supercharger. Problems can stem from faulty timing chains, many of which were repaired by Land Rover under warranty, but if there's no evidence of repair, listen for chain rattle. Running these engines with faulty timing chains can lead to catastrophic engine failure. Finally, the 4.4 TDV8 was fitted in 2010 and creates 315 brake horsepower, while averaging 30 miles to the gallon. A figure that is achieved with the use of an 8-speed gearbox, making the 4.4 TDV8 quick and efficient. These are reliable engines, but there is a known fault of the oil cooler leaking, so look out if the unit has been replaced or repaired previously. The turbo setup can also lead to faults if driven on short journeys with little throttle. However, these are not common for those that do a mix of driving. Finally, if you're only ever doing short journeys, it may clog the diesel particulate filter. Since the engine is designed to run with one, it is not advisable to remove this entirely and instead to replace it with a new one when needed. There are several models to look out for, and different countries were offered different specifications. Early models are mainly available as an SE, HSE and Vogue, with Vogue being the one to go for unless you find a highly optioned HSE. 2005 to 2009 facelift models were sold in HSE, Vogue, Vogue SE and Autobiography. One of the main differences in standard trim between a Vogue and a Vogue SE is cooled seats. Both are heated. As Range Rovers had a variety of options available, it is tougher to distinguish which model will be the best, and so it is better to choose a 2005 to 2009 model by more than just the badge. But if you want top trim levels guaranteed, then Autobiography or Vogue SE are the ones to look out for. Finally, the late facelift models from 2009 carry much of the same badging, however a Westminster version was available in the twilight years of the Range Rover L322. These are desirable and were available with a unique colour named Mariana Black. We have split our pick of the Range Rovers into two depending on budget. The 4.2 Supercharged V8 mid-facelift model from 2005 to 2009. Note that the early 2005 cars have a pre-facelift dashboard, which is noticeable by the missing air vents atop the dashboard. These are relatively affordable, and although they will be expensive on fuel, you should avoid sudden expensive failures. For those with a higher budget, the 4.4 TDV8 in a 2011 or 2012 model is the best choice, preferably in Vogue SE specification or Autobiography. Buyers should be aware though of the turning attitude towards diesels and restrictions for their use in cities that may arise in the future and could hurt resale values. We hope you've enjoyed the guide. If you feel we've missed anything, please let us know in the comments. If you've enjoyed the video and would like to see more, consider subscribing to the channel. We also have a podcast where we covered the Range Rover model from inception to now. Just search The Miles Driven wherever you get your podcasts and look for episode 30. And don't forget to like the video to help others find it.